This instructional video will give you the correct procedures for the administration of medication in an early childhood service. The procedures that we'll go through today will be ensuring that you have a completed authorisation medication form for the child which requires the medication whilst in your service. We also want to make sure that the medication is actually correctly labelled with the child's name, their date of birth, the dosage amount that needs to be administered, and the time in which it needs to be administered. Depending on the service's policy and procedure in relation to medication, all educators within that environment, if they are qualified or hold a first aid certificate, will be able to administer the medication to the child on that given day. On the medication bottle, you will need to check to make sure that the child's name is clearly labelled, the name of the doctor is actually also on the bottle, that it is in its original packaging, that the name of the medication matches the medication that is actually on the authorised form, and also that there's an expiry date. Okay, prior to administering the medication, you need to make sure that your bottle actually has all of those details pertaining to the child that requires that medication. When it comes to the administration of medication, we need to ensure that we're actually using gloves. So gloves actually protects us and the child in which we're administering the medication to. The other thing that we need to double check is that the administration form or the record that you're using that has recorded the dosage required by the child matches the correct dosage that is actually on the bottle. In this instance, this medication form tells us that John Smith needs 2.5 mils. So looking at our measuring cup that we've got here, we can identify that 2.5 mils is listed here. I'm now going to correctly measure my 2.5 mils in here, and then I'm going to have that authorised by another educator so that they can confirm that the 2.5 mils is what is stated on the medication bottle. For a younger child, you actually might use a syringe, okay? And what we do is we pop the syringe in there, and again, we're going to measure to our 2.5 mils. We're actually going to show that to another educator to ensure that we've measured the correct amount before we administer that medication. Once you've actually had the medication amount approved by the other educator should be there as the witness as you administer that medication. Then both yourself and the witness will document that on the administration of medication form so that the service and also the family are aware that the child has had their medication administered throughout the day. It's imperative that the medication authorisation record form actually has the child's name, has the reason for the medication, the date and the time that the medication needs to be administered. It must also have the dosage amount. We must also have the parent's signature on the form prior to administering the medication. There should be a table down here that talks about the time in which the medication was administered, the witness's name and also the signature of the witness, and the person that administered the medication should also sign off on this document. So to recap, it's very important that only authorised staff members administer the medication to children whilst in the services. Those authorised people are the ones that hold a current first aid certificate and anybody else that is legally able to administer that medication based on policies and procedures of the service. It's important that the medication bottle itself is in its original packaging, that the label on the medication bottle has the child's name, the child's date of birth, the type of medication, the dosage amount, and also the time in which the medication should be given. The doctor's name who prescribed it should also be on that label. When we're administering that medication, we must ensure that we correctly measure out the required dose. Now, we'll find that dosage on our authorised approved medication form as well as on the bottle. This must be verified by a witness, and you and that witness will sign off on that medication once it's been administered to children. Please remember that we must also protect ourselves and protect the children, so we should wear gloves as we're administering the medication.